Well, here we can see a couple of weeks after they've been planting these trees, what's happening. This one pine tree over here seems to be yellowing, so it's drying out. Now you'll notice they put in these two concrete posts, and I don't know for sure, but it looks like this is going to be to hold some type of controller for an irrigation system. Now what's kind of interesting is that I see some lines, like for example in the ground over here, you can see that little line sticking out, that little piece of pipe. That's what's known as a funny pipe. There's another one right here. You can see that it has a blue stripe on it that would indicate that it's for irrigation. Now you can look around and you can see out there where they move these trees around. You can see the way that there's some disturbance there. It's been a couple of weeks. It did rain a little bit right after they planted these, and they had dug this up to put in these irrigation lines. There are more irrigation lines over here, and again, nothing is hooked up, but they went ahead and planted these trees. Now this tree over here, this is known as a gumbo limbo. I have those in my own yard. They do just fine on dry ground. There's also what looks like an oak tree over there. So I guess what they're trying to do is establish some type of native plant cover. Now the problem is every time they put stuff along the road, in about 10, 15 years, they're going to rip it all out because they're going to be expanding the road again. At least over here, I guess they've gotten smart enough to put it close to the fence line, which means it'll probably be 20 years or more. And of course, if the economy goes the way I think it will in South Florida, it may never happen, because by then we might start losing people and become the Detroit of the South. Notice how every one of these trees seems to be near one of these funny pipe lines. I think they ran a 1.5-inch pipe over here. There's also this somewhat vault. Now this says ELEC, which is electric. So they're probably going to tie into this and hook up some kind of water pump. Now it's going to be interesting to think of what they use as a water source, because right down there is a canal. So it might be really easy just to run an electrical line, and there's actually electric over there, and stick a pump over there by the canal. Now again, if you remember my older videos, this was what the homeless camp location was. You can see over here, it's still rough. It basically ripped out all the trees and didn't really bother to grade it. So it's extremely lumpy. I guess eventually it will settle down. And you can see there's more of these gumbo limbo trees. Put a lot of them in there. And here's where the fence ends. And there's where the turnpike is. Technically they can't fence this in because this is water management. The turnpike doesn't own this. So if they did put a fence, they'd have to come this way. And you can see over here, we've got some of these cabbage palms. I wonder if they've taken these from the other part of the road that they were working on. It'd be interesting. But these are definitely newer trees. They have, looks like, hard to say, but that looks like an oak. Live oak. There's some silver buttonwood over there, and that might either be Clusia or it might be a cocoa plum. I'm not sure what it is. Then again, it might even be a pigeon plum. Over here we have this weed. I used to call this Moses in the bulrushes. This stuff is invasive. It grows everywhere. Ironically, the ducks like to eat it, but there are no ducks here. There's the bridge. You can see underneath the bridge is where the homeless people usually hang out at night. And there's the Snapper Creek Canal. You can see where it is. And yeah, they've done this whole thing. They put in just one line after the other. A funny pipe. It's not hooked up yet, but it goes down there. And I'm beginning to wonder why they would put the irrigation control all the way over there. Goes all the way by the canal, so it's going to be interesting. Now one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that plants by themselves have a hard time surviving. So when you take an established plant, you stick it in the ground, depending on the variety, it's going to take time for it to Those pine trees, for example, they are unable to grow under these conditions. You can see the ground here is basically broken up limestone and sand. There's no water whatsoever. It's like a desert. When it does rain, water just runs down. Whenever grass grows on top, weaves its roots through this, and when it rains, then it is able to grow. When it doesn't rain, as you can see, it just starts to die out. And that's normally what we're dealing with. From somewhere in October until 3rd or 4th week of May, we don't get a whole lot of rain. Look at this. Some type of cactus. That's interesting. That was probably left over from when this was all a homeless camp. And you can see it was a pretty good size. Now there were some palm trees growing along the canal, but they cut them down. The stumps are in here somewhere. By the way, this ground cover you see here with the yellow flowers, this is called Wedelia. It's another invasive, comes from gardens of different types. And look over there, you see the riprap on the side of the canal? It's all collapsing. A lot of that damage, believe it or not, is from iguanas. You can see over there, there's a little opening that goes to one of the drains. Iguanas, they bore into the side of this and they cause it to collapse. And over there, like on this side, they used Roundup and other herbicides. It killed off the plant cover and that allowed the soil to become loose. Remember, without any plants, the soil is very loose. And when you get a little rain, it just falls down. And there's rocks and everything that have fallen in the canal because of that. Well, anyway, I don't see any ducks and I don't see any iguanas. Not sure where they're all hiding. And also, if you take a close look at the bridge, you'll see that this bridge has been here about 30-something years. And the bottom of the piers are already sort of worn away because of the water. There is a certain amount of acidity and there's a certain amount of other material. It also develops sort of a rusty look to it. And probably in another few decades, this bridge will just become unstable and will need to be replaced, unless they can find a way to replace some of these pilings. But they seem to be stable for now. There's a few cracks here, but nothing serious. So it's probably not going to fall apart anytime soon. Usually by the time the bridge becomes unsafe, you see chunks falling out from these beams and piers and whatever. Again, there's a crack there, but it's not the end of the world. Anyway, here's some other interesting things. There's some periwinkles. There's some white ones. Some of the purple ones growing here in what used to be the homeless camp. There's actually some debris. Looks like a top of a paint can over there. You'll never know what you'll find here. There's a drink container. They didn't get everything. I mean, they hauled most of it away, but a lot of it just still here. And that's it. So let's see how well this stuff does. Probably not very well. Well, if we get the rainy season in about a month, when we're supposed to, everything should survive. But on the other hand, if we don't get our rainy season on time, by the way our weather pattern is, we're probably going to have a hurricane this year, or maybe next year. So I really need to start figuring out where I'm going to move to and getting out of here. Otherwise, we may have Hurricane Andrew Part 2. And the thing about Miami, it's in a huge real estate bubble. But the economy here is bad. Wages are low. People are stressed. I really don't want to be here if we have another hurricane like we did in Andrew with no power for 2 or 3 months. Debris everywhere. It was amazing. So, anyway, hope everyone's having a good day, and I'll catch you later.